everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. The races are heating up towards the end of the season here. My name is Rich Baxter. I'm joined by the great one and only Gary Mack.
Hello, Mr. Baxter. How nice to be with you again. And yeah, we are getting some heat on those races, the wild card races heating up, as well as some of the division races. Some are already settled.
Yes. We have some horses in the barn, so to speak, already. They're about to ready to, show their stuff for the playoffs. Obviously, they had a great season, and some races yet to be decided in our NL East. It's really coming down to the wire, almost. It seems.
Yes, it doesn't seem as if anybody wants to win that division. I don't know, but I would have to say at this point, it's between the Braves and the Phillies. The Giants, the Mets are definitely flopping. They needed to sweep this weekend against the Phillies, and they've lost the first two games of a 3-game set. So it's really gonna. They have to go, I think, 9-4 to get back to 500 with 13 games left, and I don't even think that would do it with the Braves checking in at what I think they've got a magic number of like 4 or 5 to eliminate the Mets. So I don't, and the Phillies are breathing down Atlanta's back as the Mets fall further behind. So I don't think the Mets are going to be there, but it could be interesting between the Braves and the Phillies. I'm not sure what the Phillies schedule is. Do you know if they play the Braves again this year?
They do play the Braves at the end of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. It might come down to the wire. If you're watching the video on our YouTube channel, I just put up the standings there, and you see now the Phillies just one lonely game out, and I hate to say it, but they're firing at the right time. And they're getting lucky. I mean, you're a fan of the Mets. I like the Phillies. We've both been watching the games. How often do the Phillies hold on to a 1-run lead? Not very often.
Yeah, a lot of the Phillies, I think this year especially would have had a big lead if they had a bullpen at all. They blew a lot of games late in the game. And at least I think so. I mean, you can disagree, but I think really their bugaboo a lot was the bullpen. And if they can just, stitch together a good enough bullpen to get them by, they've got a chance to beat the Braves. Braves have struggled a little bit off and on, and the whole division struggled since the All-Star break. Let's be honest, but the Mets have probably been the worst of the lot of the contenders. And Mets do have 3 games left with Atlanta as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
right
I got
after
the Phillies.
they get done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right after the Phillies get done with them, they come to New York. Or I'm sorry, the Mets go to Atlanta. So Mets could help the Phillies out if they stay this close or get into first place, or it could be an interesting week. Yeah, at least something to look forward to for Phillies fans, not so much for Mets fans, but I guess the next best thing is if you can knock somebody out is if you can't win it, you might as well knock somebody out of contention.
Yeah, and the Mets and the Phils going on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. They've been elevated to that game tonight, 7:08. We're doing the podcast on the 19th of September here, 2021. And I got the rest of the Phillies schedule up since you asked. They're going home back to Philadelphia for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They play the Orioles, and we know how good the Orioles have been this year. Probably one of the worst teams in baseball. Then the Pirates come in for 4 huge games. This could be huge for the Phillies, but guess what? The Phillies have a big problem with the Pirates for some reason.
Well, I like the Pirates team. I really do. They're, they had a bad year, but they're a scrappy bunch, and they fight and claw every game. So, I kind of like them, and they could, they don't have much to play for. Same thing with Miami. So it's not going to be that easy for Philadelphia either, as you say, other than the Orioles and but the Pirates and the Marlins could give them some problems there.
Yes, they can. And we've seen that this whole season long. The Phils, with teams they're supposed to quote unquote be able to beat, they show another side to the team. So uh, I guess, a lot of fans are optimistic that they may make the playoffs or a playoff game of some sort. But I don't know. Even more fans are more apprehensive that they won't do well. So, and like you said, the bullpen really wasn't improved all that much. And we'll just have to see, like I'd like to see Harper make it into the playoffs with Segura just once, just to see what happens. So we'll see. It's coming down to the wire.
And I don't think it's any, a disparagement to say that the only way they're going to make into the playoffs is to win the division, because the wild card is just too far out of reach for any of the NL East teams. St. Louis now is gotten ahead of San Diego, which in the wild card, which shocked me. I hadn't looked at it in a few days, and then when I looked at it, and they said, "Holy cow!" and they got a 2.5 game lead. So they were helped, of course, by playing the Mets and sweeping the Mets here just this past week. And the Mets season's been an odd one. Was in first
Yeah.
place a lot, Rich, and then it looked like they were going to hang on, and then they just collapsed, and then they started coming back again. And then even last weekend, they took 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, and we thought, oh boy, maybe they can put something together. And then they dropped 3 to St. Louis just like that, and that's really, really pretty much the death knell. I mean, they have to win every series going in from here on in, even if Atlanta goes or Philadelphia for that matter, they go 500 the rest of the way, they'll have one more win than the Mets if the Mets, unless the Mets can win 12 the rest of their games, which would put them at 84. And then, Atlanta and Philly only got to go like 8-4 or something like that. So it's not looking good for the Mets, but Milwaukee's already clinched a playoff position.
San
And
Francisco.
San Francisco, LA has clinched at least a wild card, and it looks like I think they can hang on, San Francisco, but those 2 teams are in no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
So and Milwaukee's in, even though I don't know if they clinched the division. They must have clinched the division. They've got a 12.5 game lead with 12 games left, so they clinched the division as well. Well, it should be interesting to see where the other division, and so we've got a division and a wild card battle essentially going on.
There's one glaring number, which is if you're watching the YouTube feed, I'm kind of putting my mouse around this number. The LA Dodgers with the run differential. Do you see that run differential on the screen?
Yeah.
246. That's huge.
That's huge. Well, they'd have to be the odds-on favorites, to win everything again. I know San Francisco's ahead of them, but we don't know. San Francisco is a terrific team, but we don't know how they're going to react in the playoffs. That's the thing. The Dodgers have been there the last 4 years, 5 years. They're a battle weary or a battle hardened group. Milwaukee's, 4 years in a row, so they could be tough too in the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting. And you're showing the American League now, and nobody's clinched yet, but I think we kind of can tell. I think Tampa Bay, 7.5 with 12 to go. They look pretty solid there. The White Sox, they're close to clinching. They've got an 11-game lead with 12 to go, so they're pretty close. And they're 20 games over 500, and the next team is 2 under 500. Houston and Oakland. Houston's kind of, 6 games out with 12 to go. Can they lose that? Yeah, but I think we kind of see the division winners in the American League.
Yeah, it looks like the wild card race is pretty good for the American League. We can look up at the AL East there and see the Yankees are only a half game out the way they've been playing recently. Toronto's within reach. Boston is currently your wild card at +1. But that's up for grabs. It's sort of like the AL East and the NL East are sort of holding the cards, so to speak.
Yeah, and Toronto and the Yankees have been like flopping back and forth between that second wild card in the American League. So I'm kind of hoping Toronto holds on and gets it and eliminates the Yankees. I'd like to see a year without the Yankees.
You don't like those Yankees. We
I
know
don't like
that.
those Yankees, but you just like to see, different teams once in a while. Look, if your team's not in it, you want to see somebody new in. And so
That's true.
why not Toronto? And then they could use it. They've had a rough couple of years with playing on the road a lot and then not playing in Toronto. Now finally able to go back to Toronto since June or July, whenever they went back. And so the fans up there deserve some playoff games.
Now, we didn't talk about this before the show, but with your team, I noticed I listened to the radio feed and a couple of your announcers, your year-long announcers, had a Saturday night off last night. And they had some fill-ins. And it's the same way with the Phillies. The main broadcaster for TV takes off because he has another job broadcasting for football. What's going on with these broadcasters in baseball? I don't like this kind of stuff.
I will tell you that the Mets main radio announcer has had surgery, Howie Rose. So he is out for the season. They don't say what the surgery is, but he's lost some weight. So I'm thinking it was something, to do with the big C. But that's a little speculation on my part. But Howie Rose, he's been out for the season, so they've had the backup Wayne Randazzo in, and different people coming in. Lee Mazzilli came in with him. Other people. I don't know who was on yesterday, but you make a good point because even the main Mets guy on television took some weekends off.
Yeah.
Just took a weekend off. And I'm thinking you never saw that. And he didn't work another one because he does college basketball, but that hasn't started.
Yeah.
So they just took a weekend. They just got a weekend off. And it's like the umpires. They say now the umpire's on vacation. Well, what do they do all winter? Isn't that a vacation?
Yeah.
I don't,
Tom McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, this doing the football and then they leave for the football. They should have it in their contract. I can't do it till the baseball season's over. But
yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly. It would be like Harry Callis saying when he was a broadcaster for the Phillies, one of the most famous broadcasters for the Phillies, saying, "Oh, I got other things to do, guys. I'm going to be away." And this wasn't the only weekend for Tom McCarthy to be away. His son substituted him for one weekend a couple weekends ago, and then they get a team together, but it's unbelievable that they would abandon their main job, so to speak.
I don't know. We talk about how he rose. He used to do hockey. He used to do the New York Islanders on television, and he did that for a number of years. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, he gave it up because he said he was getting too old. He's about a couple of years younger than I am, so he's not that old. I mean, he's in his 60s.
When you
But
compare it to yourself, they're never that old.
but I could see, he was, and then the one particular year when he decided to do it, they were in the playoffs, so that was dragging on into the baseball season. So it's a lot of traveling because he's calling a Met game, and then he's flying out to do the Islander game and missing the Met game, and then but look, it's in their contracts, so they must, they have the freedom to do it, I guess, and and they're doing it. And I think of all the guys that used to call games that haven't gotten a job from the old New York Penn League. There's a couple of guys, and he had these guys that got two jobs, so. And you can't tell me some of them need the money. I mean, come on. You work in a major market, and you're the prime announcer. You're making a nice paycheck.
Yes, you are. Well, a couple guys that are making a nice paycheck out west had it out the other night in the dugout. Padres Manny Machado and upcoming superstar Fernando Tatis Jr. got into a heated discussion in the dugout that they almost had to be broken up from. And maybe it's youthful indiscretion, possibly. Gary, did you see that story during the week?
I did see it, and I was never. I'm not a Manny Machado fan, but I think to call Manny Machado old school at this point would be pretty funny. He's only 29, but I think he had a good point here. Tatis got called out looking on a strikeout and was not happy with it, and came back to the dugout and was continued his unhappiness with the umpire, blah blah blah. And Machado just blew a gasket about that, and the manager got tossed out of the game for going out and arguing the call. And I don't blame Machado because you were in a dogfight here. You're in a pennant race. And it was reported that Machado yelled at him, "It's not about you," or something to that effect. You can see the quote there somewhat. But, in other words, get your head in the game. We as a team need you.
I think he went a little bit too far, though.
Machado? Well,
yeah, definitely.
Maybe, but
he's entitled to get upset, and he ran after him like somebody that was his boss or something, and chastising. I mean, you got two superstars there. Machado is nobody to talk. He's a crumb. That's why the Phillies didn't take him.
But what I will say is he is an influence on the younger Latin players.
Yeah, but he's not a good role model at all.
Well, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to tell the guy, and he might have went over the line, but he's trying to tell him, look, it's not about you alone. We need you to stay in these games, because if you get thrown out, we're shorthanded, and that's some offensive bat to lose in a game. So I don't blame him, 100%. Maybe his method was a little heavy-handed, but sometimes that's how you got to get through to some of these kids. It's a team sport played by individuals, and sometimes we especially in these younger guys, I think they worry too much about their own stats, a guy like Tatis is not going to get cut from the team. I can understand the 26 guy coming on and worrying about his stats, but he's not the guy that's going to argue with an umpire because he's got no credibility. I think these young guys have got to learn that it's not all about power. It's not all about how hard you hit the ball. It's working for the team and doing things. And if you get called out, you don't have to like it all the time. Believe me, I got called out plenty of times. But you have to realize, especially in this situation, that they are fighting for a wild card spot. And let's not forget that they had that spot all year, and lately they are losing. And sometimes losing can cause tempers to flare. And when something comes up like this, it just blows up a little bit. We'll have to see how they react. They could react well to this. And, it could be where Tatis says, well, I'm going to show that son of a B. And
Gone.
yeah. And, other players will try hard too, because they don't want him on their back. Or it could go the other way. We don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a bunch of tempers flaring short there in the West Coast, San Diego. I thought we might be seeing them in the playoffs. They still have a chance, but I just assume not see them myself.
Well, Rich, I'll tell you something we have seen is we've seen players get ejected from baseball games, and we've seen managers get tossed. We've seen coaches get tossed. But this past Wednesday night in Baltimore, we saw the entire grounds crew get ejected by an umpire.
Wow.
In Camden Yards, the Yankees and the Orioles were playing, and it was threatened by inclement weather. And in the ninth inning, third base umpire Tim Timmons saw the O's ground crew sitting on and behind the top, ready to spring into action at the final out. Timmons wasn't happy about that. He walked from his position behind third base all the way across the diamond while signaling that the grounds crew needed to leave the field. Every member, and they did, running off into the right field, the corner. Perhaps the Orioles wish that they hadn't. Moments after the ejection, a 3-2 lead over New York became a 4-3 deficit on a 2-run single by Brett Gardner, which held up as the final score. So Tim Timmons threw the grounds crew out of the game. Told him to get off the field, and I guess he figured, it's pretty common, I think, that they would stand there if there's a threat of a rain, if rain's falling or if it's getting heavier. But Tim Timmons wanted them out of the field, off the field.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever heard of a grounds crew being thrown out of a game, but so be it.
Yeah, you know what? The older you get, you're amazed at the things you see. Right? Something happens all the time.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about going to a ballpark, because you never know what's going to happen. It could be 5-hour game. It could, well, not so much recently with that runner at second, but you just never know. You might see a perfect game. Who knows? That's the greatness that I like about baseball.
And Rich, can you believe there's only 12 games left? 12, 13 games left?
Yeah, it seems like we're going to make the season here, the regular season, despite COVID still rearing its ugly head, though it's taken a little bit of a back seat for now. But yeah, we sort of weathered the storm this whole season. That, I looked back and I thought this morning, while I was thinking of things to talk about for the show, how the 2020 season was and how we soldier through it with our podcast, and we were sticking with it. Oh, the season might start in April. It might start in May. It might start. And I think, what did it start in July? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
What an amazing difference between 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got the whole season in.
Yeah. And it's been a funny season. I mean, there's been teams rise up and teams crash down, and who would have thought the NL East would be this bad? But I mean, I guess it's safe to assume it's probably the worst division right now in baseball. But um, everything is cyclical, and that'll change. And um, I just think I just think these players now are too hung up on power, on whether it be and teams too. It's too much analytics. The two guys throwing 100 miles an hour. They won't look at the guys that are throwing 85 and getting people out with craftiness anymore, because they all want power. They want home run hitters, even if they strike out. And I think that's got to change. I think you have to have a team win that goes back to old fashioned bunting and stealing. And once that happens, then the trend will go back to that. Everybody will go back to that, and we'll forget all about it. My big pet peeve is, what would you rather do if you're a ball player? Would you rather hit it 150 miles an hour to a third baseman and get thrown out, or would you rather hit it 40 miles an hour and drop it in for a base hit? Me, I'll take the 40 mile an hour base hit 4 times a game. I don't care. It in the box score, it's a line drive anyway. So, um, but I think too often it too on this hard hit ball. He hit, well, that didn't drop. No, but his batting average dropped by 50 points. Yeah, he's still hitting it as hard as ever, but it's not getting out to the outfield where it's supposed to go. So I don't know. I'm just off on a tangent now, and reel me back in.
Let me reel you in.
Okay.
Uh, no, you make a good point. I'm for that as well. I love old fashioned baseball. I'm not a big fan of the stats, the launch angles, though it is interesting at times. But to jump back into what we were talking about with the COVID season last year and continuing into this season, I stumbled upon an article for, it just happens to be a Phillies player, Didi Gregorius, blaming COVID-19 vaccine for elbow issues, though experts say he's wrong. So there was a story in the local Philadelphia Inquirer recently. Didi Gregorius, of course, Philly shortstop. He's having the worst season of his career, and he's not any younger for it, but he claims the shots caused him to develop a painful pseudo gout, which is a form of arthritis characterized by sudden painful swelling. And he had it in his right elbow. So possibly, you could attribute that to that. So he's blaming COVID-19 on his bad season.
Well, you know what? And if he believes that, uh, it's his opinion, and he's free to believe that if he wants. You're gonna have experts tell you all kinds of stuff. That's the problem with this whole vaccine. Nobody knows for sure what the heck is going on. The government tells you one thing, the next week they change it. So it's so very confusing. You don't know what experts to believe anymore about anything. So I don't blame him for thinking that. I mean, it was out of the ordinary. It's something different. Now, if it's a form of arthritis, he's thrown a lot of balls in his career. He swung a lot of bats. It could
Yeah.
be just happened at this point in his career. But for him, it happened right after getting the shot. So you have to wonder. And I don't think we know enough about this vaccine to really, the experts can say whatever they want, but there's no long-term studies on this thing. So how do we know, excuse me, how do we know that that's not a possibility? You know, he may be the only case of it, but look, there has been some other cases that there has not been many cases of it, of something, and people have contracted certain things, and
It's true.
they so I
So
don't
I'm a big fan of the vaccine.
well, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I mean, I'm vaccinated myself, but I think that it's up to the individual to talk to their doctor about it. I'm not a big fan. I'm a fan of the vaccine, but I'm not a fan of the mandates. I don't think it's constitutional. I don't think it's right for the government to tell you you have to take this thing or else your livelihood is going to be threatened. That's not right. That's not right at all. Um,
It's true.
some people have their doubts about it, and you know, in some instances it's warranted, in some instances it's not. But I think we should have our own personal choice, and I don't think somebody should be ousted from society or because they choose not to, and especially if they have a natural. We were told in the beginning that if you get it, then you don't need, if you get COVID, then you don't need to take the vaccine because you have natural antibodies against it and that they're stronger than the vaccine. But
Yeah, but
now even those people are going to have to be forced to take it. And I just don't like that.
every day though in the common press and across the country, you do read about couples that were on the fence about getting the vaccine, talking back and forth against it. They're dropping like flies. To be honest with you, people are dying still out there in great numbers. We still have this with us. It's still a very, very deadly disease. So, from my perspective, I'm telling everybody, if you haven't been vaccinated, please go out and get vaccinated. Um, just read the papers and read online. People are contracting this that haven't been vaccinated, and they are dying in great numbers again.
Right.
So,
But there are also people dying that have been fully vaccinated and catching it.
but
So
not in but not in the great numbers
no,
that.
no, granted, but I think that it's still a personal choice on whether you get it or not. I urge everyone to get it. I think it's a
I was against it.
necessary.
I was against it. I was one of
You
those
were
fools.
anti-vaxxer.
I was one of those fools months ago before the country opened back up that wasn't going to get it, and I skeptical, this, that, and the other. But I'm so glad that I jumped ship because I realized that once we open up, everybody's going to be unmasked again for the most part, mingling again one another, very close, um, contact, shaking hands, things like that. It was a no-brainer. People are going to get close to you. They're going to have the disease. You're not even going to know it. And if you're not vaccinated, you have no guard. You have no guard. You're going to get the virus, and God help you. Some of these sports stars got it and recovered from it. But if you have a lingering condition like diabetes or something like that, or obesity, it attacks that. It seems to fester and dwell into that, from what we've learned so far anyway. But enough of that
But
talk.
should the government but should the government mandate it?
I can't go there. I got to cut it off there. But get vaccinated, everybody. That's all I can say. Let's
And
talk a little bit
I
about.
I I say the same. I say the same, but you know, investigate first. Talk to your doctor and see what your doctor says. Let's leave it at that.
Very good. All right, let's get to our listeners here as we do most shows. We'll show you who's listening to the show, and we want to give a couple shout outs there. I have a couple new listeners that jumped on board. They gave us a compliment, Mr. Hunter. out there who I met and worked with for a while. And hello, Hunter, and welcome to our listeners out there. And thank you for tuning in. He's a bright young kid. He went to the Manhattan School of Performing Arts for a couple years there. And he's been in a couple TV shows, and he lives locally to me. So I think we might be seeing him on TV one day, Gary.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah,
go.
he likes the show. Here's our listeners: United States, 86%, United Kingdom, 8%. We got the Mexico group in here, Gary, 1%.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Hola.
Thank you for listening. Apple Podcasts, we're at 68% of the listeners. I thought it would be higher because that's the big standard of podcasting. So for years.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Alexa, 6%. Very convenient to listen to us just from there. Overcast, Google Podcasts picking up a little bit, 3%.
There you go.
20% other. So we got some savvy listeners out there. Gender, 81% male. Thank you guys for listening. And we have a big contingent of lady listeners. I want to wave my hand out to them and thank them as well.
Thank you.
And there's our, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, we have our breakdown on the age group. So we got to jump up that 18 to 22. We're not capturing them as good as, guys our age, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I think podcasting numbers are down all across the board. I know mine are significantly down for Mets Musings, and I think again we're another victim of COVID-19. I think a lot of people listen to podcasts and things as they travel to work, and being that they're still not going into work, I think it's kind of hurting the podcast market. But we keep pushing. And hopefully people will find us. And if you do find us, if you find us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. And it really is a big thing to us. Or if you listen to the podcast at anchor.fm/baseball radio show.
Baseball talk radio show.
Baseball talk radio show. Hit the subscribe button there, and if you're so inclined, please hit the support button and help us out. You become a supporter of the show for as little as $1 a month, 99 cents a month, anything at all would be of great aid to us. We make nothing doing this. This is all out of our pockets. We bought all our own equipment and microphones and cameras and everything like that to bring this to you, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it.
Yes, indeed. That's a heartfelt saying there from Gary. We do it for you. We do the show for you, not for us. We're not big time broadcasters, but if you do like it, we ask for your support. It's something that does happen on podcasts, not ours, but they do get supported, sometimes very, very greatly so. But, the choice is yours, and we don't harp on it like some shows do. But if you have it in your heart to go over to our website there and hit that subscribe button, support button actually is what they call it, we would greatly appreciate it. And if you need any information on how to do that, you can email Gary at baseballtalkradio.com or myself, Rich, at baseballtalkradio.com, and we'll help you get signed up for that. I know we take for granted that listening to podcasts is easy because we've been doing it for years and we're somewhat tech savvy, but there's a bunch of people out there. There's probably multitudes of people out there that would love to listen to these shows, but just don't know how to get to them. They don't know where to find them, that sort of thing. So if you're in a group that's listening to us, give us an email. We'll help you out.
Mm-hmm. And Rich, before we go, MLB announced some not alternate, but all-star game sites for the upcoming years. The Dodgers will host next year's all-star game at Dodger Stadium. I believe they were supposed to hold it last year, and because of COVID, it got canceled. So they're going to get it next season. The Seattle Mariners will host the 2023 MLB All-Star Game. And boy, I don't remember the last time it was in Seattle.
Yeah.
If ever. And your Phillies will host the 2026 All-Star Game at Citizens Bank Park. Now you might be asking, why did they name 2026? What happened to the other years? Well, 2026 marks the 200th and the 50th anniversary, or the semi-quincentennial, of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. So it only makes sense that it's the game is held in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And
it's going to be a great time down at the ballpark. And Citizens Bank Park, by the way, is getting old. I think it's 15, 16 years old, 17 years old now. So it's
come on, that's a youngster.
It's well overdue, but I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to make this premise. I'm going to be there.
All right.
I'm going to be there at that game.
At my age, I just hope I'm still alive to watch it.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody listening out there for, this edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. It's going to get more fun as the race heats on. Thanks to our new listeners out there. And thanks for watching our YouTube channel. And as Gary said, hit that subscribe button for us.
And I guess that does it for this week's show. And we'll see you next time on another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show.